All right, MOvember, day 9. Thought I'd wear the MOvember hat, 2019. I've done this next piece for other MOvember campaigns, but I want to do it again. And I suppose with a little bit of um, a broader focus. This tool is from Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker, and it's his 13 tools for managing emotional flashbacks. But I work a lot, not only with developmentally traumatized people, but with people that have had adult trauma and especially betrayal trauma. And that's the trauma that occurs in a marriage, which is, the main attachment relationship you have other than your parental one. And when someone is betrayed with sex addiction, they have the very unique features of complex post-traumatic stress reactiveness. And so for many years after the original discovery and of the betrayal, they can flash back even if their partner's doing well. Like most people who flash back, that they project the past onto the present, and they think if I can just control the present, it will remove this feeling state. And that's the great lie, because it doesn't work. And in particular with betrayal trauma, even if the person just goes along and gives in, it's not going to create the safety you need. It's a central nervous system issue now. So what I'll do is just read Pete's little introduction, and I want to go through the tips of, what happens when you are in a flashback. And sometimes we know we're in the flashback, sometimes we know what the triggers are, sometimes we wake up in a flashback. Sometimes a particular mood triggers a flashback. So one of the things Pete does in the chapter on flashbacks is really goes through and looks at the different ways that flashbacks can be triggered. We can have inner critic or outer critic sort of initiated flashbacks. The way that the critic and the internalized sort of shaming parent then creates the flashback. Perfectionism, emotional neglect, facing stubbornness can all trigger flashbacks. Shame turned in on the self can trigger the flashback. And so, one of the things with Pete is sort of knowing what the trigger is. So if you are listening to this as a betrayal trauma person, getting really clear on, okay, what are some of the things that can trigger you? And instead of going into your hyper vigilant defenses, is there a way you can bring your focus in? And if the danger is not ever present and right in front of you, meaning that there's no evidence that something has happened, then maybe the focus can go within. So here's what Pete's written on this issue. Emotional flashbacks are intensely disturbing regressions, amygdala hijackings, to the overwhelming feeling states of your childhood abandonment, and I would say to the original discovery of your betrayal trauma. When you are stuck in a flashback, fear, shame, and or depression can dominate your experience. These are some of the common experiences of being in an emotional flashback. You feel little, fragile, or helpless. Everything feels too hard. Life is too scary. Being seen feels excruciatingly vulnerable. Your battery seems to be dead. In the worst flashbacks, the apocalypse feels like it will imminently be upon you. When you are trapped in a flashback, you are reliving the worst emotional times in your childhood. Everything feels overwhelming and confusing, especially because there are rarely any visual components to a CP TSD flashback. This is because, as Goleman's work shows, amygdala hijackings are intense reactions in the emotional memory part of the brain that override the rational brain. These reactions occur in the brains of people who have been triggered into a 4F, like a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn reaction. So often that minor events now trigger them into a panicky state. And I would say if this betrayal trauma has happened in your adult life, then it can be the ping of a mobile phone, a look, a smell, lateness, a moment of variance, and boom, we're back there. Our nervous system, our amygdala takes over, fight, flight, freeze, and we're taking a bazooka, to possibly a Monopoly match. So here's the different stages and different things that Pete suggests, right? And it really is trying to wrestle back ownership of, I need to take control of this state of mind and start to regulate it. As Stephen Porges says in his polyvagal theory, one of the great discoveries for him was that if you can moderate the heart rate, it will then trick the brain back into to knowing that we're not in panic. We can relax, but if we can bring the heart rate down, it will pull us out of the regression. So 13 steps for managing emotional flashbacks. 1, say to yourself, I'm having a flashback. Flashbacks take you to a timeless part of the psyche that feels helpless, hopeless, and surrounded by danger, as if you were in childhood or when you were betrayed, or the discovery of the betrayal. The feelings and sensations you're experiencing are past memories and they cannot hurt you now. The first step of any 12-step fellowship is about this sort of admission. It's that to see your drama clearly is to be liberated from it, which is a Ken Keyes Jr. saying. Remind yourself, I feel afraid, but I'm not in danger. I am safe now, here in the present. Remember, you are now in the safety of the present, far from the danger of the past. We probably have now got some resources. There's some people we can reach out to. We're adult people that can access different levels of support now, which we might have had before. 3, own your right and need to have boundaries. Remind yourself that you do not have to allow anyone to mistreat you, and you are free to leave dangerous situations and protest unfair behaviour. Boundaries are a critical part of recovery. Pia Mellody certainly said it was the first tool that betrayal trauma people needed to learn. Otherwise, they remained either offenders or perpetrators. Speak reassuringly to your inner child. The child needs to know that you love him unconditionally, him or her unconditionally, and that she or he can come to you for comfort and protection when she or he feels lost or scared. I know this can sometimes be a hard concept for people, and I know one gentleman I work with just sort of nearly refuses to go there, but if that's the case, just practice self-compassion. Instead of the focus being outside of you and the locus being outside of you, come back to you in affirmations or self-compassion. Deconstruct eternity. Thinking in childhood, fear and abandonment felt endless. A safer future was unimaginable. Remember, this flashback will pass, as it always has before. 6, remind yourself that you are in an adult body with allies, skills and resources to protect you that you never had as a child. Feeling small and fragile is a sign of a flashback. We are now adults. We can access resources. We are not alone. 7, ease back into your body. Fear launches you into a heady, worrying, numbing, and spacing out space. So, A, gently ask your body to relax. Feel each of your major muscle groups and softly encourage them to relax. Tighten muscles, send false danger signals to the brain. Breathe deeply and slowly. Holding your breath is also signals danger. Slowing down. Rushing presses your brain's flight response button. D is find a safe place to unwind and soothe yourself. Wrap yourself in a blanket, hold a pillow or a stuffed animal, lie down on your bed or in a closet or in a bath, take a nap. And lots of people use weighted blankets or weighted toys in that situation. Feel the fear in your body without reacting to it. Fear is just an energy in your body. It cannot hurt you if you do not run from it. So it's like feel the fear and do it anyway. And in this case, relax, slow down if you're safe. And if you're not safe, get yourself to safety. If you are safe, start that process of relaxing. 8, resist the inner critic's drasticizing and catastrophizing. A, use thought stopping to halt the critic's endless exaggeration of danger. Its constant planning to control the uncontrollable. Refuse to shame, hate, or abandon yourself. Channel the anger and self-attack into saying no to your critic's unfair self-criticism. And B, use thought-stopping substitution and thought correction to replace negative thinking with a memorized list of your qualities and accomplishments. And I did do a piece for this MOvember, so look for it on the thought-stopping and thought substitution. And in it, has a little tool that Pete's got in a toolbox at the back of this for listing those accomplishments. Allow yourself to grieve. Flashbacks are opportunities to release old, unexpressed feelings of fear, hurt, and abandonment. Validate and soothe your child's past experience of helplessness and hopelessness. Healthy grieving can turn your tears into self-compassion and your anger into self-protection. 10, cultivate safe relationships and seek support. Take time alone when you need it, but don't let shame isolate you. Feeling shame doesn't mean that you are shameful. Educate your intimates about flashbacks and ask them to help you and talk to you and feel your way through them. And this is like in the tool I shared about Coach Carroll's AVR tool, which is another part of my MOvember campaign this year, that presenting that tool. If we can talk to the people that are in our lives, and especially betrayal trauma partners, if they can have a process that their partner knows, and if you've got complex stress due to childhood trauma, if your partner knows when you're in these triggers, these would be the things that would be soothing to help me heal. Really valuable to instruct them about those things. Learn to identify the types of triggers that lead to a flashback. Avoid unsafe people, places, activities, and triggering mental processes. Practice preventative maintenance with these steps when triggering situations are unavoidable. 13. And actually that says practice preventative maintenance with these steps. So if we can't afford people and places and things, then activate these particular tools. Figure out what you're flashing back to is number 12. Flashbacks are opportunities to discover, validate, and heal your wounds from past abuse and abandonment. They also point to your still unmet developmental needs and can provide you with the motivation to get them met. And 13 is be patient with the slow recovery process. It takes time in the present to become de-adrenalized and considerable time in the future to gradually decrease the intensity, duration, and frequency of flashbacks. Real recovery is a gradually progressive process, often 2 steps forward, 1 step back, not an attained salvation fantasy. Don't beat yourself up for having a flashback. My clients who post this somewhere conspicuous until they memorize the gist of it typically progress more rapidly in their recovery. You can easily print out a copy of the 13 steps page from my website. That's www.pete-walker.com, and there's plenty of resources on there for where you can get Pete's book and a lot of other PDFs that he has, and the 13 tips to deal with emotional flashbacks is one of them. I hope this has been useful. I find this book amazing if you've got any form of complex stress, especially from childhood. But like I said, I think some of the tools in here can be useful if you've suffered any sort of stress and trauma that leads you to regularly going into a regress state where you need to find tools that can help you. So remember today, be gentle with your heart. Please look after yourself and reach out for help regularly. And if you can, donate to my MOvember page, or anyone that you know that's growing a Mo. This is day 9. It's taking a little bit of shape and colour. It's getting there. Feels good to have not a big thick worm on top of my chin, any caterpillar there, but it's going to come back. Yeah, if you think someone might benefit from this, please subscribe so you can get more and share it with others that might benefit from these tools. And I look forward to doing another video tomorrow.